Hey, howdy, it's me, Manic Mark, coming to you from the bunker system located underneath the Art Phillips. Found some. Start over. Hey, it's me. That's right. Get some energy up. Hey. Oh, man. Hey, it's me. I had a long week. It was a long week. Very hard, difficult, long week where I was grimy and dirty and sweaty and tired and not aggravated most of the time. Sometimes it's just like, I'm ready to give up, Lord. That kind of week. So then today I've gone all day and I just mowed the lawn and pulled weeds. There's no stopping the never-endingness of the things that are never-ending. Okay, go on. Stories. Should have made a list. Hey, Manic Mark, why was your week so long and why were you sweaty and grimy? Well, we were supposed to be done with the big museum clean out, and then we weren't done. So like 10 of us, around about that many, spent the entire week hauling stuff to dumpsters. You can imagine an extra week of 10 people hauling stuff to the dumpsters. Now, you'd say that's a lot of stuff. Well, it was a lot of stuff, but you got to remember that some of the stuff is like a mile away from the dumpster. Actually, almost probably literally, I would say at least a half a mile away. All right, or a half a mile round trip. A long way. We figured on a normal day we're walking between 4 and 6 miles. I'm figuring we put in 8 miles a day. And I made it my task toward the end of the week to find rooms that hadn't been touched yet that were filled with junk that I could say, hey, I found another room full of stuff that needs to be thrown away. All right. And the very last day, at the very last hour, we found another room full of stuff that should have been thrown away, but it was just outside of the construction zone, so it didn't need to be thrown away. But it was piled up with stuff like 20 years worth of. Anyway. I found this tearing out something, so I took it to break. I called her my break date, sat her on the table, and I made jokes about the bananas that people were eating. I only did that one time because I'm older now, and I know not to press my luck when I do something really silly like that. All right. I have one more figure. Maybe I'll include a photograph of it. I said the last figure was the Indian that's down here. Did I come up with a name for him? I don't remember. So another figure, which I'm not going to paint. I'm just going to leave him alone. He's plaster. Wasn't super heavy. Not like Adolf Hitler over here. An interesting figure. So there was a few more things to be cleaned up and torn apart. And was that your only story? It's been 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks. So this year I will not make, unless I make 2 videos in 1 week, and the amount of videos I make will probably be 52. But it depends on if I find records. I didn't find any records last week. That's why I didn't make a really long, pointless video of me rambling about nothing, and then shared some records, and then a sample from the records. So this week at Full Price, Half Price Books, that's it. Not very many. I drove up to the window and there were 3 people looking over the records. I almost just like said screw it and drove right past. But I thought, oh, yeah. And also that I had taken 2 big bins of records into Half Price, Full Price Books. Did I tell you? I didn't tell that story. That happened last week. So I took them in and I figured out 2 big heavy bins of records. I got $18 for them. So I figured they're giving me like 50 cents a pound or 25 cents a pound, something like that. They don't buy records, they just buy them by the pound, that's it. So it was interesting, so I thought, well, because that's probably all my... Anyway, I went in, it was interesting to find the records that they decided were worth money. Most of these I just didn't feel comfortable selling for anything on eBay. It wasn't worth it. Or they had been on eBay, nobody wanted them, so I took them in to dump them at Half Price, Full Price Books, and it was interesting to see their record guy price some of the records I brought in, maybe 6 of them at like over $5. Okay, so I bought a few other records that people brought in. They got 25 cents a pound for, and I'm going to share them with you right now. While I think of if there are any more stories. It's been 2 weeks. There has to be more stories. I just don't have the energy to think up stories right now. This could be fun. It's the Don Shirley Trio. I swear they've got a John Shirley album. Another one, or I recognize the name. Anyway, interesting collection of instruments on the album. The piano, and then the must be a viola, and the bass. So it should be an interesting. I think it's around 1960. I'm not sure. I'll probably share something from that. All right. Another album we got here with the fun cover is Richie Delmore. Richie Delmore, folk songs in native Goomba. A collection there of Richie Delmore. There he is on the back. I think I have 1 or 2 of his albums. They have another one. Scuba diver in the ocean, silhouette of a scuba diver in the ocean on the cover. This was a great cover, and an accordion player. Oh, people keep rubbing it in. You hate accordion. Now see these people that are like bashing me, spanking me for not liking the accordion, and it's not that I don't like it. There's one guy that plays the accordion that I do like. I can't think of his name right now. That's why you come here. Because I don't have any real information, because my brain won't let go of it. But anyway, this was just a terrific cover of Tommy Grumina. I have to apologize again. Recording with rhythm accompaniment. I haven't heard of this guy, but he's on Decca. That doesn't mean anything. All right. And I picked this up. It's a great cover. Warren Covington, Let's Dance Latin. Oh, Manic Mark. Why'd you pick up a Warren Covington album? Nobody likes him. Well, I know. It's like, what is he, the cheap big band Glenn Miller guy, like the budget Glenn Miller or something like that. Oh, there's some good titles on this, though. I don't know. The cover, and you know. And last but not least, I could not believe I found this in the 50-cent bin. The jazz album was $3. This was in the 50-cent bin. Anyway, it's a cha-cha album with a terrific cover, minty fresh. Willie Martinez and his orchestra. I could have cha-cha'd all night on Decca. Apparently, the accordion album and that album came from the same collection, actually from the same store. I ripped off the cellophane before I sat down here. But it had the same type of price sticker on it. Vintage price sticker for $1.17, both of them. $1.17. So if I just sit here for a while, or I cut out, or I'm thinking of like, oh, that's another story. Yeah, like, what the hell happened with this? It just went. I just gotta say, at the end, everything went crazy when throwing stuff out. There were people moving, and we weren't the only people. That's I gotta say, we weren't the only people moving stuff out. They hired a moving company who was moving stuff out, and there's been this battle over metal. Years and years ago, this is a good story, years and years ago, I did a show, and when the show was over, the producers of the show decided to throw away all the AV cable, okay? So in my half-ton pickup truck, I took home 2 mounds of AV cable, took it to the scrapyard and got like, I don't know, $300 for all the, you know, it's not much copper, but there was a lot of it, so $300. And so I made the mistake of telling that story, and so it got around. People started going, "Oh, there's money in scrap." And so then the scrap started to shift from, well, give the Manic Mark because why would he want it? We don't care, get rid of it. To, well, maybe we'll pile it up and we'll scrap it, and then we'll go take people to dinner, which is a nice thought, and it's okay. But by the end of the whole thing, we had the names of these, there's a scrapyard down the road. Okay, it's an interesting story. Okay, now I'm getting into it. Interesting story, there is a scrapyard down the road, so scrappers, the inner city scrappers are driving all around this museum all the time, okay? So the word got out, so the scrappers are stopping by every half an hour. There's a scrapper there, and one of the scrappers' name was Jim Beam. He wore a high-vis yellow vest and a hard hat. And he was gregarious and very friendly, and most of them were gregarious and friendly chaps. A few of them were just like, I need enough money so I can get some more drugs right now. They were all red-faced and kind of like, ah. But most of them, they were just out to make a living. And a few of them, you could tell that they were bright people, but just somehow, thrust in this sort of this kind of lower, weird kind of way, not weird, unusual way of, making a living that most people would like go, oh, but I sort of had an appreciation, an affinity for these people because I'm like just basically doing the same thing as they are, but I got to clock in the morning. That's the difference, right? So we had the guy's phone number and we're calling him because when the moving people got done moving the metal, that's got to back up. So then there was this thing like, oh, where's the money from the metal? We're like, yeah, we were saving it to get lunch. No, you can't do that. It has to go in the general budget. It's like, that kind of ruined the whole like this drive to get this metal, which otherwise probably would have just been out on the curb, right? But anyway, never mind. So anyway, but when they were done, the metal was like, oh, up for grabs again. And there's just pouring out of the building. Every time I thought there'd be no more metal, well, this is the last of the metal, Jim Beam. We need to call him on the phone. There's 3 discs, metal discs. Where did it come from? Why weren't they thrown away? Here they are. It's the end of the day. He doesn't even have room to put them all into his... And a refrigerator. This is the other funny thing. At the end of that's all this sweating and carrying heavy crap and stuff like this, we had to go way in the back of the museum to fetch this refrigerator that had an ice core from a Greenland glacier. Okay, so it was all this probably pure water, I'm assuming. A big core in a refrigerator, and they just unplugged it. We're just throw it out for scrap. There were a couple of ideas like, well, we should keep it plugged in. We should take the ice core to a bar, sell it to a bar, and they could sell it as pure glacier. Like 10,000, 15,000, I don't know when was the last glacier, really old pure glacier water from Greenland and scotch. Cocktails, we probably could have made a lot of money off of that. Imagine the freezer, but it was old anyway, and that was the same room with the door we walked in just tired, so tired, and the room was full of just stacked with stuff. We thought we'd have to move, but then we didn't. Wow, that was a pretty interesting. I did have a story, all right. So the scrap. So the last thing I did at the very end of the day after clocking out was lift really heavy slabs of some kind of weird steel buckle that I have no idea what it was. Been sitting for probably 70 years in a nook and cranny into Jim Beam's. He swears it's his real name. You didn't swear that to me. Maybe it's not his real name. Maybe it's a nickname. Anyway. Jim Beam's pickup truck, the guy with the high-vis, yellow high-vis vest and the hard hat driving around in his black sweatpants on like a sweaty, humid, horrible day. All right. Oh, and I gotta back up. Oh, here's more stories. This is good because I don't have anything to do tonight except sit in front of the camera and talk, so this is good. My big summer project. Here's a photograph. Putting it up on the screen. Okay. That's the leftovers from this leak I've been fighting for years and years and years. This leak in the kitchen right down where the drain is, where all the water from the roof comes through an opening and down a pipe. For a couple of years it's good, then it leaks, and it's been leaking a little bit more lately, and I'm like, how in the hell? And I've been up there and I've looked all over, and I've replaced the box, and I did all this stuff from the roof, and I thought, now I'm going to have to cut into the ceiling, which I do. I get to the vent pipe, I think that's it, the vent pipe. The vent pipe obviously had some water on it. I think that has to be it. So I take the vent pipe completely out of the roof, seal it from the top. Since I'm not venting into a sewer out here in the country, because that's a gray water and it's okay. It's legal from this kitchen sink. Okay. So there's no sewer gases, and I cap it, and it seems to drain. Everything drains okay, so I don't need that. Like kind of that open sort of, anyway, so that's it, and it rains really, really hard, and it doesn't leak. I'm thinking, oh my God, after 25 years I've solved a leak. The very next day, then I'm getting ready to patch the thing. Okay, I'm going to do it. The very next day, there's even a harder rainstorm, and there's a little dripping coming from, not from my patch, but through the hole where the vent pipe, so somewhere up, farther up in the field of the roof somewhere. And people were very helpful. They're like, well, how could you find some roofer to come out, like a professional? Even my wife said that. I'm like, oh. I'm sorry, it drives me crazy when people suggest that, because I know it's not like the roofing system is like brain surgery, you know. I mean, I understand it completely. I understand the roof, I understand the house and the roofing system completely. There's nothing a professional can tell me that will help me in this instance. And if I put a whole new roof on it, it'd tear off. It's very likely things may still leak. Even with the new roof. And the new roof, I can only imagine, is going to be like amazingly expensive compared to 25 years ago when I put this commercial roof on, which is still, what's the word? It's still, the membrane is still flexible. I don't see any reason to replace it right at the moment. But just a little, so it's on top of a rubber roof that didn't do the job. So there's water getting in somewhere. It could be on the other side of the building, a little crack through the brick. I have no idea. And really, really heavy. There's enough moisture able to find its way down to that. So at the museum center, they had a room just like that. It was a gallery. It was underneath grass. It was a room underneath this thing with grass. And on really heavy rains, it would leak. So they developed a pan system. They would hang these big pans from the ceiling, and water would come in, hit the pans, and eventually drain down into a floor drain. That's crazy, and they're going to fix that, maybe. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that up in the ceiling. I'm going to put a pan up in the ceiling and seal it all up, so that little bit of water will have nowhere to go but in the pan, and it'll evaporate into that. Now, this thought was really, that was too long and boring. I must admit, even for me, I ran out of steam just because. But you hadn't heard that story, so maybe you were on the edge of your seat. What are you going to do? Oh, the pan system. It's not as exciting as like blowing up your house out of frustration, running around naked in the neighborhood screaming until the police come, and then you blow your house up. Why? They think there's something, but no, it's just that after 25 years of the leak, I finally snapped and went crazy. Okay, it had nothing to do with like weird ideology or anything like that, other than just like, please roof, stop torturing me. All right. Okay, now on to the musical sample.